Mully Haugh, Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Dan Wiederer joins us on the Signature Bank Score Hotline. Signature Bank, making commercial banking personal. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Doing good. How are you guys this morning?
We're wondering what the Bears are. You know, what is it that this team they obviously it's the worst offense in the passing offense in the NFL, and they just can't seem to. Well, is it as simple as not trusting the quarterback, not trusting the offensive line? Is it a chicken and egg as to which of those groups they don't trust?
Well, add in the unproven receiving core, right? And you've got a perfect storm, right? The Bermuda Triangle of where passing offense goes to die. And so I think some of that is trying to sift through this now and figure out what they can trust and making sure that they have something in one of those three units that they can trust and that they can rely on to get this thing unlocked, because you're not going to win over the next 4 months if you're throwing 11 passes and throwing for 48 yards in this league. It's just not going to get it done. And so I think that troubleshooting effort has to have some urgency this week with Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy and company in there trying to figure out what it is they do well, what it is they don't do so well, and figuring out how to put together a better game plan.
Dan, you said on our Take the North podcast, you explained why the Justin Fields decision when he threw the ball past the line of scrimmage was somewhat troubling to you, and why it stood out for a lot of reasons beyond just the fact that it was a loss down and a penalty at a bad spot, but what it might have reflected about where his state of mind was and other things about his development. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, at best, David, it was a lack of awareness, right? That is a little bit troubling for a young quarterback who is being schooled every single day on how to improve and sharpen his pocket poise. At worst, it was a moment of panic, right? And when you get a quarterback in a situation where he's potentially panicking and doesn't feel that he's a good 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, it's a problem. I also thought that on that play, and Matt Eberflus sort of confirmed this on Monday afternoon, that Justin did the right thing when the pressure came, right? You're not always going to have the perfectly clean pocket when you hit the top of your drop. And so you have to be able to have a feel for when to climb. And his instincts were to climb, and he went forward through the pocket. Well, once he did that, there was plenty of room there to stop, reset, and make that throw to Equanimeous St. Brown or someone else about 5 yards earlier than he did, right? And he kept running, and then he got indecisive. I'm going to run for the first down. No, wait, I'm going to throw it. And then all of a sudden you've got a 5-yard penalty, a loss of down, and you're bringing Trent Gill back on the field again. And so it was just one of those moments in a game full of snapshots where Justin's pocket feel and his pocket presence wasn't quite there. And we're going to be talking about that until January on what does his pocket presence look like? How is he feeling comfortable within those moments? And it just wasn't there Sunday night. Hopefully he can bounce back a little bit this weekend against the Texans.
You know, maybe the weirdest thing about that shotgun play on the goal line that we haven't talked about, and it was inside the one. It wasn't. It wasn't like it was pretty, questionable as to what they were going to do. But they had three wide receivers on the field in that formation. Why? I mean, did anyone think they were throwing the ball to a wide receiver for the first time in forever? It just seemed weird.
Yeah, that certainly, to me, Mully, was almost more egregious than the actual quarterback power run from the gun, right? Like, if you're gonna run there, don't pretend that you're gonna throw some sort of half-yard pass for the score. I personally, given the way that David Montgomery had been controlling that game and was clearly the Bears' best football player on Sunday night, I don't know how you don't just ride the hot hand there. And again, you need a half yard. My preference is, before you get the QB power, is do a quarterback sneak. You hope that your center and your guards can get enough push that your quarterback can lean forward for 8 inches, or give it to the running back, who every single time he touched the ball on Sunday night was running very angry, right? And running with purpose and running with passion that resulted in 122 yards on the night. And so it's just another one of those moments that shows you that for a team with such a thin margin for error, you've got to be pretty much perfect to beat teams that are clearly better than you. And obviously they weren't on Sunday night. They swallowed a 17-point division loss on the road. And now they've got to, again, get back up quickly, because I know everybody wants to go and circle the Texans as an easy win for the Bears. Well, guess what the Texans are doing? They're looking at their schedule and saying, oh, the Bears, let's go win that game, right? And the Bears better be aware that they're that team on everybody's schedule for the rest of the year.
A team as limited offensively as the Bears are, they have to identify strengths early, and I think the offensive line blocking for the run is one of the strengths early on. And that's why, Dan, I understand the rotation at right guard, and I understand why Lucas Patrick is a big part of this. But I think that anytime there's a rotation, it kind of predetermines playing time, and I don't always think that's such a good idea. How long will that continue, and what do you expect the offensive line to look like when everyone's healthy?
Yeah, well, this afternoon at 1 o'clock when they hit the practice field, it'll be very interesting to see if our eyes can tell what Lucas Patrick is doing with his right hand and whether he's able to squeeze a football and whether he's taken some reps inside at center yet. I think as soon as that is able to occur, your guard rotation is done. Lucas Patrick will move over to center. I think they're seeing some positive things out of Tevin Jenkins to leave him at right guard, and then Sam Mustipher might be your odd man out right there. I think it could be as early as this week. I think today's a telling moment for what Lucas Patrick's able to do. If not this week, then maybe it's next week that they're able to clear that hurdle with Lucas Patrick returning to full strength with that hand, and then they can proceed going forward. Certainly that was the biggest bright spot of Sunday's game, was the fact that they not only committed to the run, but committed to it and succeeded on a high level to average 6.7 a pop there. Montgomery and Herbert both ran it well, and that's going to have to be a staple of their offense now. You have to work off that, right? You have to be able to open up play action when you establish a run like that, and they didn't do really much of any of that on Sunday night.
This segment with Dan Wiederer is brought to you by Old National Bank, where relationships and results matter. Get old. Dan, I'm kind of done with that rotation. I'm just tired of it.
Understood.
I understand why they're doing it, and I understand that they want to move Sam Mustipher out and they want to move Lucas Patrick in. But I think Jenkins has played pretty well, and I'm not sure I understand what point they're trying to make while they're getting everyone kind of thudded up and all that. The fact of the matter is, an offensive line is usually, it usually needs a limit to the number of players, not a rotation.
Well, I do think some of it is just trying to get Lucas Patrick, who missed pretty much the entirety of training camp with that injury coming as early as it did, back into football shape and being able to play him a full game once his hand feels good enough. And so some of it is just a necessary conditioning exercise here. And so they've ridden it for 2 weeks. And now, again, hopefully they can find their way through it here really quickly and get some stability there. Again, the offensive line, to your first question of the morning, Mully, it's just they're not sturdy enough right now, and particularly as pass blockers, you better find some answers there, because this is such a critical stage of Justin's development, and we can't be having these conversations in November about not trusting your offensive line and not trusting your quarterback and not trusting your receiving core. Somebody's got to earn some trust here soon. Otherwise, this is going to be a frustrating year for us to break down this football team.